So if you're looking to improve your health and drop some body fat, or to control your weight to get to your ideal body shape and size, it's all about your relationship with food. It's not about doing the tactics, it's about changing the strategy and the entire approach. So hi, this is Dr. Steve, owner and founder of Body Solutions. And so I'm going to talk about in this video how you can completely reapproach how you're going about losing weight. You see, if you look on Amazon right now, there's about 10,361 different books on dieting, right? That means there's over 10,000 different authors and 10,000 different ways and programs and tactics that you can use to drop weight. But yet, when you look at the history of the last couple of decades, the national average of increasing in weight in the population continues to rise. So there's something going on. It's not coming from the lack of information. It's definitely not coming from the lack of gyms available to this world. Like gyms popping up everywhere. So it's not about a lack of resources, right? Because there's so many diets and different tactics that have come and gone. We have Atkins, Paleo, South Beach, and all kinds of cleanses and detoxes, and yet still on average, people continue to gain more weight. So what's really happening? Well, I believe that what's really happening is no one is really considering what is your relationship with food, because in life, right, you have your core values. Maybe it's honesty, open communication, maybe it's hardworking. Whatever your core values are right now, you're using them to manage life, right? So when you have certain difficult decisions in life, you go back to your core values and you base it on those core values. Well, what are your core values when it comes to food? You see, these core values that you have or possibly don't have in place are dictating your health. And so all these tactical things that you're doing won't work unless you work on what are your core values as it relates to food. And so we're going to talk about the 3 core values that I believe that you can adopt that will completely revamp your health and improve your weight without the struggle, without using all these tactical things that none of them last, right? And so let's talk about the 3 core values. So the first one is slow rainbows. Well, what does that mean? Basically, it means that you want to eat different colorful foods throughout the week, right? Thus, rainbow, different colors. And you want to eat the food slowly, right? Because when you eat food fast, 1, you tend to overeat, and 2, you develop this lack of connection with the food, right? In other words, food just becomes this tool that you use as a thing to, 1, quench hunger. Maybe you look at it as fuel. Maybe you look at it as something just you have to do each day. But yet food is so essential for living. It's a part of your life. You can go through your life being single. You can go through your life doing one job, but you cannot go through life without food, right? It's impossible. And so this relationship with food comes from eating it slowly and being in tune to how you feel when you eat the food and just kind of slowing down and enjoying the process of actually preparing. Hopefully you're preparing your food and consuming the food. And of course you want to do that with a variety of different foods, right? That makes sure you have the nutrients. And of course in a different video I can talk about how if you eat the same foods all the time, it actually makes you sick and inflamed. Right? And so the second core value is 80-20. Basically, 80% of the time, if you're eating healthy foods, the other 20%, it does not matter. Right? So what's considered healthy foods? Let's talk about that. Well, to me, instead of deciding what's healthy, what's unhealthy, and kind of remembering this list, just follow a simple rule. Any food that has been through a machine at some point is unhealthy. Right? So I'll explain. Anything that's been processed, like man got it through a machine and did something to it, most likely it's unhealthy. So what's healthy? Anything that hasn't been through a machine, right? So ideally from the earth to some type of, store to your mouth would be the ideal, right? And so that's healthy foods. And so now let's talk about, well, some people say, wow, if I ate, during the week, mathematically, if you're eating 3 meals a day, 7 days a week, that's approximately 21 meals a week. And so 80% would be 16 meals, like 16 healthy meals, and you get 4 unhealthy meals. And some people say, wow, what happens if I eat, unhealthy on vacation for all week? Well, what you do is you zoom out. If you ate all healthy for 1 week, there's about 5 weeks you're going to have to eat healthy to balance out the 1 week of entirely unhealthy eating. And that's okay, right? And so there's a very important concept that this is in place to help you avoid. And I'll talk about that with the 3rd core value, right? So basically, it's bad. There are no bad foods because food has never directly killed anyone. I always, I joke like cheeseburger, people, oh, that's bad. Well, cheeseburger never put a knife in its hands and stabbed someone and murdered them, right? Cheeseburger is, yeah, probably not the healthiest food. It's a little less healthy than, let's say, broccoli. However, it is not bad. And so these two core values are in place mainly to help you do one thing, which is to avoid the feeling of guilt and shame. See, when you follow a program to eat, the program says, eat this and not that. And what happens is when you eat that, because ultimately at some point in your life, you're going to eat that, whatever that is, whatever they say that you shouldn't eat because it's bad. When you eat that, what's the language in your head that happens right afterwards? You're like, man, I shouldn't have eaten that. Man, that was so stupid. Man, I just can't stick to this diet. Or sometimes you would say, man, I deserve that, right? Maybe I ate a lot and I feel like I did a lot of work eating healthy and I deserve this. And so there's all this language assuming that there's this high amounts of effort and control, and if you exert enough effort and control, you now deserve this bad food. Or the other way to look at it is, I shouldn't have done that, which is the guilt and shame. And what ends up happening is over time, the visual I can give you is, if you've ever been on a diet before, right? And so if you do enough of that, every time you do it, it kind of builds up in your body, right? Imagine it's just kind of building up. And eventually when you do enough of frequency of those things, you feel so bad internally, you're like, screw it, I'm off the diet or I'm off the program anyway, I'm done. And so what happens? You go back to the way you were eating and the weight comes back on. And eventually enough weight comes on where you're so frustrated, the pain of all that weight now motivates you to go on yet another program. And you're looking for the next best program, right? Because you're like, that program didn't work, right? Because I didn't stick with it. Let me find a new program. But ultimately, it has nothing to do with the program. It's about your core values with food, right? So by adopting these three core values, you avoid that vicious cycle of weight gain, weight loss. You avoid the need to use willpower and dedication to eat healthy. You naturally eat healthy over time by building healthy habits. And you naturally and easily sustain a lifelong relationship with good health, good body weight, your ideal body, the body that you want. And so by adopting these core values, you can get there. Now, you're not going to get there in 12 weeks. You're not going to get there in 6 months. It might take you years, but it will be permanent, right? It's just like anything. You cannot get good at, I don't know, let's say if you don't play basketball, you don't do anything, you can't go from being beginner to excellent at it within weeks. It just takes time. That's the same thing with this. This will take time, but you have to set that realistic expectations. Those quick weight loss programs, those transformation programs do not work. Again, I have a separate video talking about that, but this is about the fundamentals of how to think and the core values that you have that govern healthy living, healthy eating, healthy weight, and healthy mind and body.